Dawn. A family milks their animals. Warm milk fills the pail. It's rich. It's precious. Maybe the best food they have. By nightfall, much of it is gone. No fridge, no ice, no way to keep it. Tomorrow they'll milk again, and lose it again. For thousands of years, this was one of the biggest problems for people who depended on milk. How do you stop milk from disappearing? Nobody had an answer. Then one ordinary journey changed everything. Nobody planned it. Nobody invented it. It simply happened. An accident, out on the open road. That quietly solved a problem which had beaten people for generation after generation. And that accident became something billions of people still eat today. A modern kitchen. A lid peels back with a soft snap. A child lifts a spoon. Yogurt. That little cup in your fridge is one of the oldest traveling foods on the planet. It crossed deserts and mountains. It outlived empires. It passed from hand to hand, family to family, across thousands of years, before it ever reached you. And it all began with spoiled milk, and a discovery nobody saw coming. Before yogurt, here's a question to start with. Before fridges, before ice, before any machine to keep food cold, how did people stop milk from spoiling? The honest answer is simple. They couldn't. Picture a hillside, many thousands of years ago. The sun is high, the grass is dry. A shepherd walks slowly behind his animals. Goats, sheep, later cattle. These animals were everything. They gave wool, they gave meat, and every single day they gave milk. Losing an animal could mean losing everything, so people watched over them like treasure. Fresh milk was one of the best foods a family could have. It was rich, it was filling. Children grew strong on it. For a family with hungry mouths to feed, a good milking morning was a small victory. But milk had a cruel habit. It didn't last. In hot weather, fresh milk began to turn within just a few hours. Often, it spoiled and had to be thrown away. People had no reliable way to keep it, and no way of knowing that, under the right conditions, that very same change could turn milk into something good. Now think about that. You have hungry children. You have a valuable animal. You get this wonderful food every morning, and by evening, much of it is gone. There were no fridges to save it, no cans, no freezers, no plastic tubs with tight lids. People tried keeping milk cool in clay pots, in caves, in streams. It helped a little. It never solved the problem. And there was one more thing. Long ago, most grown-ups couldn't easily drink a lot of fresh milk anyway. Their bodies struggled with it. A big cup of milk could leave an adult with a sore, upset stomach. So milk was a gift that came with a puzzle. Precious in the morning, mostly gone by night, hard on the stomach for many. For thousands of years, this was just how life worked. People accepted it. They milked their animals, drank what they could, and watched the rest slip away. Nobody sat down and tried to invent a solution. But a solution was coming anyway, not from a clever mind, not from a busy market. It came from an accident, during an ordinary journey, on an ordinary day, and it would change how humans ate forever. The accidental discovery. So how was yogurt discovered? Here is the famous story. It's the picture most people carry in their minds, and it captures something true, even if no one was there to write it down. Picture a group of nomads on the move. They don't live in one place. They follow their animals across open land, searching for grass and water. Home is wherever they stop that night. They can't carry heavy jars, so to carry milk, they use what they have, bags made from animal skin. They fill a skin bag with fresh milk in the morning, tie it shut, and sling it over an animal's back. Then they walk. And here is where nature quietly goes to work. That skin bag isn't clean and empty. Inside it, on the walls of the bag, live tiny living things. Bacteria, far too small to see. Some of those bacteria are the friendly kind, the kind that turn milk into something new. Now add the 3 ingredients nature needed. Heat, from the sun and the animal's warm body. Movement, from hours of walking, shaking the bag with every step. And time, as the day stretches on. The milk swishes, the bag warms. The tiny bacteria wake up and begin to feed. By the time the travelers stop and open the bag that evening, the milk has changed. It isn't liquid anymore. It's thick, tangy, a little sour, but in a good way. Now, imagine being that first hungry traveler. You open the bag expecting spoiled milk. You're ready to throw it away. Instead, you find something creamy and fresh-smelling and safe. You taste it. It's good. Better than good. It's tangy and thick, and it fills you up. And it hasn't spoiled. It's turned into something you actually want to eat. That is the heart of the story. And here's the part that matters most, so let's say it plainly. Nobody invented yogurt. No king ordered it. No cook created it. No single clever person woke up one morning and thought it up. Nature made it. Humans simply noticed. We can't point to one exact person, or one exact day, or one exact spot on the map. What we can say is that this kind of accident happened among herding people across a wide part of the world, places like Central Asia, Anatolia, and the lands nearby, wherever animals, warm weather, and milk came together. The details are lost to time, the pattern is not. And once people understood what had happened, once they realized this sour, thickened milk was a good thing, not a ruined thing, everything changed. Because now they could do it on purpose. Save a little of today's yogurt, stir it into tomorrow's fresh milk, keep it warm. Wait. By morning, more yogurt. Once people learned that trick, they never stopped. The food that traveled with people. So why did yogurt fit these wandering people so perfectly? To understand that, you have to understand their lives. Picture a family that owns almost no furniture and no fixed home. They move with the seasons. When the grass runs out here, they pack up and follow it there. Their wealth walks beside them on four legs, their animals. For people like this, yogurt wasn't a treat. It was a tool for staying alive. Think about what it gave them. First, it lasted longer than fresh milk. That alone was huge. Fresh milk was a race against the sun. Yogurt bought them time. Second, it traveled well. You could carry it in a bag and keep eating from it as you walked. Food that moved with you was exactly what a moving people needed. Third, and this surprised many, yogurt was gentler on the stomach than fresh milk. Remember how a big drink of fresh milk left many adults feeling sick? Turning that milk into yogurt quietly fixed part of the problem. The fermenting bacteria did some of the hard work first, so the human body didn't have to. So a food that used to make grown-ups uncomfortable now sat easy. Put all that together, and you can see why yogurt spread through these communities like a shared secret. Central Asia, Anatolia, the Caucasus Mountains, the Middle East. Across all these regions, herding families were living the same kind of life, moving, milking, and making yogurt every single day. For them, it became as normal as bread. Morning milk, evening yogurt, a little saved to start the next batch. Again the next day, and the next, and the next. Children grew up never knowing a life without it. To them, it wasn't a discovery or a clever trick. It was simply food, as natural as water, as steady as the sunrise. And a child who grew up making yogurt would one day grow up, move on, and teach it to children of their own. And notice what yogurt was not. It wasn't a rich person's luxury. It wasn't served only at feasts. It wasn't rare or fancy or hard to get. It was ordinary, practical, everyday. It was survival food, the kind of quiet, steady food that keeps a family going through good seasons and hard ones alike. That's the theme we'll keep coming back to. Yogurt didn't rise through palaces and crowns. It rose through regular people, solving a regular problem, one bag of milk at a time. And those families were about to carry it much, much further. Because when people move, their food moves with them. Ancient civilizations. As people settled and built the first great civilizations, did yogurt get left behind in the past? Not at all. It moved right into the kitchen. Picture an ancient town at dawn. Mud brick houses, narrow streets, smoke rising from cooking fires, the smell of baking grain in the air. This is a world of early cities, places like Mesopotamia, where some of the oldest writing and farming began. Nearby lay Persia, Anatolia, the lands of the eastern Mediterranean, and further off, ancient India. Different peoples, different languages, different gods. But walk into their homes and you'd find something familiar. Fermented milk, cultured milk, yogurt in one form or another. Now, we don't have a video of the first ancient family eating it. What we have is evidence, and one piece of it is breathtaking. In southern Iraq, on the ruins of an ancient temple, archaeologists uncovered a scene carved almost 5,000 years ago. And what does it show? A dairy. Tiny figures, set in stone. Some are milking their cows. The calves are tied close and gently muzzled, so they couldn't drink the milk first. And beside them, more figures, straining the milk, churning it, storing it away in tall jars. Stop and picture that. Nearly 5,000 years ago, people cared so much about milk and about saving it that they carved the whole process onto the front of a temple. Milk it, strain it, store it. The same patient steps families still use today. This wasn't a rare treat for kings. This was everyday work, so important that someone set it in stone for all to see. And here's a clue that fits our story perfectly. Back then, most adults still couldn't handle much fresh milk. Their bodies struggled with it. So a lot of that carefully saved milk wasn't being drunk fresh at all. It was being turned into fermented foods, yogurt, cheese, and more, first. In other words, the science quietly agrees with the shepherds. For these ancient families, fermenting milk wasn't a fancy choice. It was the sensible one. Now, step inside one of their homes. Forget the golden thrones for a moment. That's not where yogurt lived. Yogurt lived with families. A mother sets out a bowl of it beside flat bread. Children scoop it up with their fingers. It's cooled with a little water for a drink on a hot day. It's stirred into simple stews. It's carried to the market to trade for something else. Everyday meals, in everyday homes, eaten by people whose names history never bothered to record. And that's exactly why it lasted. Grand feasts come and go. Empires rise and crumble. But the quiet food on the family table, the food a mother teaches her daughter to make, that gets passed down, hand to hand, year after year. Yogurt wasn't waiting in a museum. It was alive in kitchens. And soon, those kitchens would connect across an entire continent. The food that crossed continents. Here's one of the biggest questions in our whole story. How did yogurt spread across the world without an army to carry it? The answer is one of the most beautiful things about it. It traveled the same way people did. Picture a long line of camels crossing a desert at sunset. Bells ring softly, dust rises from 100 feet. Traders lead their animals along a route worn smooth by centuries of travel. This is the Silk Road. Not one road, but a great web of paths stretching thousands of miles, linking the east and the west. For hundreds of years, people moved along these routes. Merchants, carrying silk and spices and precious stones. Nomads, following old paths their grandparents had followed. Travelers, pilgrims, whole families searching for a better life. And every one of them had to eat. Now think about what makes the perfect travel food. It has to last. It has to be easy to carry. It has to give strength for a hard day's journey. Yogurt and its cousins checked every box. And this isn't just a nice idea. Travelers wrote it down. More than 2,000 years ago, a Greek writer named Herodotus described the horse-riding peoples of the open grassland souring their milk into a tangy food. It's one of the oldest written glimpses of fermented milk we have, and already it's out on the move, with people far from home. Centuries later, riders on the great steppe routes carried something that seems almost made for travel. Dried milk curds. Milk was soured, then dried until it was hard as stone. In that form, it could last for months. A rider could tuck a lump of it into his bag. When hunger came, he'd drop a piece into water and let it soften back into food. Fermented milk you could carry 1,000 miles. For someone crossing a continent, that was pure gold. So when travelers stopped for the night, they made their milk foods. When they met strangers on the road, they shared them, and shared how they were made. And that's the secret of how yogurt crossed continents. Not through conquest, through connection. A trader from one land would sit by the fire with a stranger from another. They'd swap stories, swap goods, and without even meaning to, swap the small, everyday knowledge of how they turned milk into food. A method learned in one place would travel 1,000 miles in a saddlebag and take root somewhere completely new. This is why you find fermented milk all along these ancient routes. From the edges of China, across the plains of Central Asia, through Persia and Anatolia, into the Middle East, and onward toward Europe. The recipe spread like a seed carried on the wind. But here's the wonderful part. It didn't stay the same. Every place that received it made it their own. The same simple idea, let good bacteria transform milk, grew into hundreds of different local traditions. One discovery, spreading outward, carried not by soldiers, but by everyday families and herders, moving across the world and taking their food with them. And when yogurt finally settled into all these new homes, something lovely happened. It stopped being a traveler's food alone. It became part of the table. A food for every table. So what happened when yogurt finally put down roots? It became family. Picture a warm kitchen, anywhere in the world. Now picture many kitchens at once. Different countries, different smells, different hands at work. But in every one of them, someone is making yogurt. Let's step into a few. In Turkey, thick and creamy yogurt is everywhere. It's spooned beside grilled meat. It's thinned with water and a pinch of salt into a cool drink for a hot afternoon. Travel west, and there's the strained, extra thick style the world now calls Greek yogurt, pressed until it's rich and dense, wonderful with a drizzle of honey. Go east to India, and you meet dahi, homemade yogurt at the heart of countless meals. It cools the burn of spicy food. It's blended into refreshing drinks. It's stirred into sauces families have made for generations. Across the Middle East, milk is strained even further into labna, so thick you can spread it like a soft cheese, top it with olive oil, and scoop it up with warm bread. Now here's the thread that ties them all together. Look closer, and the differences aren't random. Each version was shaped by the world around it, shaped by the animals people kept. In much of India, yogurt often came from the rich milk of the water buffalo, thick and creamy. Across the harsh grasslands of Central Asia, people used the animals that could survive there, even horses and yaks. In the hills of Anatolia, it was often sheep and goats, shaped by the weather. In hot lands, yogurt was thinned into cooling drinks. In cooler ones, it was strained thick so it would keep longer, and shaped by the food already on the table. Wherever yogurt arrived, it slipped quietly into the local cooking, beside the bread, into the stew, alongside the spice. Same simple gift from nature. 1,000 different homes for it. Stop and think about how remarkable that is. One accidental discovery, made by nameless herders long ago, grew into hundreds of separate traditions, each one treasured by the people who kept it. A grandmother in Turkey and a grandmother in India might never meet. They might not share a single word of language, but both know the feel of fresh milk turning thick under a warm cloth. Both learned it from their mothers. Both will teach it to their children. That's the quiet power of this food. It didn't force itself on anyone. It didn't erase what was already there. It simply arrived, settled in, and let each culture make it their own. One idea, hundreds of homes, countless tables. And through all these centuries, people made yogurt the same way, trusting a process they couldn't see and couldn't explain. They knew that it worked. They had no idea why. Before science understood fermentation, here's a question that might surprise you. For thousands of years, people made yogurt perfectly, without knowing how it actually worked. Think about that. Picture generations of families, all doing the same thing. Save a spoonful of yesterday's yogurt. Stir it into fresh, warm milk. Cover it. Keep it cozy. Wait. By morning, yogurt. It worked every time. So they kept doing it, passing the steps down like a family treasure. But if you had asked them why it worked, They couldn't have told you. Why did the milk thicken? Why did it turn tangy? Why did a spoonful of the old batch bring the new one to life? They had no answer, and they didn't need one. The knowledge lived in their hands, not in a book. The real reason was far too small to see. The whole thing was being done by living creatures, tiny bacteria, invisible to the human eye, feasting inside the milk. These little microbes eat the natural sugar in milk. As they feed, they release a mild acid. That acid is what makes yogurt thicken and what gives it that fresh, sour tang. We now call this process fermentation. It sounds complicated. It really isn't. It just means tiny living things quietly changing food, and usually making it last longer and taste better. The same kind of magic gives us bread that rises, cheese that ages, and drinks that fizz. Yogurt is part of that same ancient family of foods. And here's the friendly surprise. Not all bacteria make us sick. Some are helpful. Some do wonderful things for our food. The bacteria in yogurt are the good kind, quiet little helpers that turn milk into something better. But for most of human history, nobody knew any of this existed. Bacteria are far too small to see without special tools. Those tools took a very long time to invent, so people lived with a mystery on their kitchen table and simply trusted it. Then, a little over 100 years ago, science finally caught up. In 1905, a young Bulgarian scientist named Starmin Grigorov was studying yogurt through a microscope. And there, at last, he saw them, the tiny living rods doing all the work. One of the main bacteria in yogurt was later named after his home country. To this day, it still carries that name. For the first time, humans could see the invisible workers they'd relied on for thousands of years. Now here's the part worth pausing on. Science didn't invent yogurt. Science explained it. The shepherds were right all along. The ancient families were right. Every grandmother stirring milk by feel was right. They just proved it with their hands. And with time, long before anyone proved it in a laboratory. Ancient wisdom came first, modern science came after, and quietly said, yes, you were right. And once science finally understood yogurt, it was ready to change how the whole world would eat it. The food that entered the modern world. So how did an ancient food from herders and travelers end up in fridges all over the planet? That's the story of the last 100 years or so. Picture the world beginning to speed up. Trains, factories, big cities filling with people. Machines that could do in an hour what once took a whole village a day. For most of history, yogurt was homemade. You made it in your kitchen, for your family, one batch at a time. Then two big things changed. The first was refrigeration. For the very first time, people could keep milk and yogurt cold and fresh for days. Remember the ancient problem, the milk that spoiled by nightfall. Refrigeration finally solved it, in a way our ancestors could only have dreamed of. The second was the factory. Now yogurt could be made in large amounts, packed into containers and shipped to shops far away. What was once a homemade food became something you could simply buy. One early step in this story took place in the country of Spain. Around 100 years ago, a man named Isaac Carasso began making yogurt there and selling it, at first through pharmacies as a healthy food for children. He named his little company after his young son. That small business grew and grew. Today, it's one of the biggest food companies in the whole world. Stop and think about that leap. A food born in warm skin bags on the backs of wandering animals was now being made by machines, sealed in cups, and sold by the millions. The nomads could never have imagined it, and yet it was still their food. The same milk, the same friendly bacteria, the same simple change. From there, commercial yogurt spread fast. It reached shops across Europe. It crossed the ocean to America, and slowly, it landed in supermarkets nearly everywhere. Then came another wave of interest. This time about health. Scientists began studying the good bacteria in yogurt more closely. They gave a name to the helpful microbes in certain foods, probiotics. Research explored how these tiny helpers might be good for our digestion and our health. Suddenly, yogurt wasn't just tradition. It was a modern health food too. Rows of it appeared on store shelves. Plain, fruit, drinkable, thick, thin, in every flavor you can imagine. Now, let's be careful and honest here. Yogurt is a good, wholesome food. People have thrived on it for thousands of years. But it isn't magic. It won't cure every illness or fix every problem, no matter what a colorful label might suggest. What's truly amazing about yogurt isn't a health claim. It's the journey. Think about the distance this food has traveled, not just across the map, but across time. From a warm skin bag on a nomad's animal, to a factory line filling millions of cups, to the shelf of your local shop. The same simple food, the same friendly bacteria, the same ancient process, just wrapped, now, in a modern package. And that package is about to land somewhere very familiar. The yogurt in your fridge. Let's come back to where we started. A modern kitchen. Morning light. A hand reaches into the fridge and pulls out a small cup. The lid peels back with that same soft snap. Someone takes a spoonful, maybe over fruit, maybe straight from the cup, standing at the counter, half awake. It looks so ordinary. But now, you know better. Now you know what's really in your hand. That little cup holds thousands of years. It holds shepherds on dry hillsides, watching milk spoil and wishing for a better way. It holds nomads opening a skin bag and finding, by accident, that the milk had turned into something wonderful. It holds countless families, mothers teaching daughters, grandmothers teaching grandchildren, passing the same quiet skill down through the centuries. It holds long caravans crossing deserts, carrying yogurt and its secret from one land to the next. It holds ancient kitchens and modern factories, Silk Road fires and supermarket shelves. It holds migrations, discoveries, traditions from dozens of different lands, all meeting in one simple food. All of that, folded into one small cup in your fridge. And here's the strangest thing of all. Almost nobody ever thinks about any of it. We open the yogurt, we eat it, we rinse the spoon and move on with our day. We never picture the shepherd, we never picture the desert, we never picture the grandmother stirring warm milk by feel, hundreds of years ago, in a home we'll never see. The whole enormous story just disappears into breakfast. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. This food carries the fingerprints of half the world and thousands of years, and it asks for nothing. It sits quietly in the fridge, ready whenever we are, keeping its long history to itself. Until now, because now you finally know. The little cup that traveled the world long before refrigerators, before supermarkets, before neat little plastic cups with peel-back lids. People discovered that milk didn't always have to disappear. They found that with a little warmth, a little time, and some quiet help from things too small to see, milk could be saved, changed, kept alive long enough to feed another day. Nobody owned that discovery. Nobody sold it or locked it away. It simply traveled, the way good things do, from hand to hand and heart to heart. From one family to another, from village to village, from continent to continent. It crossed deserts and mountains. It survived empires that are now only names in a book. It slipped quietly through thousands of years of human history, never asking to be noticed. Until one day, it reached your refrigerator. So the next time you peel back that lid, the next time you lift that spoon, pause, just for a second. You're not only eating breakfast, you're holding one of humanity's oldest traveling foods. A small, simple gift, passed all the way down the ages, right into your hands.